And now he's old. And it shows. And I think that's fantastic to have an older person in an action movie.
My first question is for James. That opening sequence, the AI technology that was implemented completely blew me away. Can you talk about, as a director, what it was like working with this form of AI and what your opinion is on that technology and
We never
its
use the word
benefits?
AI, not once, ever, in all the working on the movie. That is completely a kind of hot button post production thing. It was a visual effect technology, but I don't know what computer brains were involved in the doing of it all. But maybe it makes it saucier or more exciting to talk about it that way. It was the goal for me was to give the audience a taste of the Indiana Jones movies we remember, as best we could make it, and then to come off that kind of whirlwind and land in 1969 and find Indy in his current situation. So we wanted, I think, in a way, to create as much promise, to show that we know the Indy movies you miss, and that at the same time go, but we're going to make a slightly different one, although this character is going to claw his way back to that energy by the end of the picture.
Harrison, for you, starting from the 80s when we had the first film to now having this technology implemented, how has it been for you to see that difference and to see how far Indiana Jones, the film, has come just from a technological visual effects basis?
What I really have seen is both the use and the misuse of technology in 40 years, or during that 40 years, and it can be, some of those computer-generated things can be fantastic, and they can be very helpful in the telling of the story, and some of it's just can make more.
For its own sake.
Yeah, for the sake of itself. And that kind of thing is, to me, really death. Because story is everything, character is everything. Kinetics, not so much. You know, you can create those kinetics either real or in the computer. And what's important is that you don't notice, that you can't tell that it's not the real. But it can also just be more of everything. More bad guys, more enemy, more airplanes in the sky. And you have to be very careful with that stuff because it's not what people are really there for. What you have to remember is that people are there to be moved, to laugh, to be thrilled, to be spilled. Whatever else you can do for them emotionally is what it's really about.
And it definitely took me on an emotional roller coaster when watching it, and it was amazing just the way that you break up the action sequences with the more sentimental moments throughout the film. And Harrison, I wanted to ask you as well. You've talked about how you wondered during the third and the fourth film, like, oh, I wonder where Indiana Jones is going to end up. I wonder what's going to happen to him. Having had that script in your hand that kind of answered those what ifs, do you feel that it answered where you hoped that he would end up in the future?
Yes, I was ambitious to include this part of his life, as well as the earlier films that we did, which focus on him when he was young, vibrant, vigorous. And now he's old. And it shows. And I think that's fantastic to have an older person in an action movie, to see him try to be the same person that he used to be, but he's not. And there are other people picking up the slack and filling in the voids, and some of it feels good, and some of it feels, hey, come on,
get in there.
Yeah, but And we talk about this. This is a character who is physical. He's a physical character. So when he can't do the things he used to do, he's got to fall back on other resources that he does have. And I think it's an interesting place to see that character.
I was actually intrigued by that, of seeing how there were moments where you see him kind of have the regrets of how either his past actions or his current actions have influenced or impacted the people around him. And James, I wanted to ask you, when working with the writing team, when putting this together, why was it important to showcase he's lived this life, he's a complex character, and now we're seeing some of the regrets and some of the things that he's also proud of in his later years?
Well, what's important always when you're making a movie is to try to tell the truth about your characters, right? But then we jump into this context of a giant franchise and money and fans, and you have to try and there's a level where people may want to only encounter this character as perpetually young and, as Harrison said, vibrant. But there's no story I can do about that. You know, if you take as a given we're making this movie, the truthful story I can tell in collaboration with this actor is about what we can explore together. And what we can explore is what's it like to be this guy older. That doesn't mean he's not funny. That doesn't mean he doesn't have adventures. That doesn't mean there can't be dynamic action in the movie. But it means that the movie's existing in some honest place when me and Harrison go to set every day. That we're not making a movie where a guy's trying to pretend he's 30 years younger. And that instead we're making a movie where we're taking a hero we know really well, who's been well exploited in his youth in movies, and exploring him through the prism of age. And also, by the way, it's not only about Indy growing older, it's about the world changing around him. The world that existed in the 30s and 40s, a kind of black and white, golden age, Nazis are bad, allies are good, you know, it's all murkier now. It's not just that Indy's changed. The world itself has become grayer. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. The real politic, nuclear power, moon travel. No one's looking backward. This was the context of what we had to lay a story out in, and that was really interesting to me.
Me too. Me too.